I really feel like I can handle not only just another child, but also like, what if that child also has food allergies?
The sibling of somebody with food allergies is going to, it's almost a gift. Like they are going to have this empathy muscle that is unlike any other. You literally can't win.
You cannot. And you constantly feel like it's your fault. You constantly feel like you're going to make one mistake and the whole, world is going to explode.
Hi.
Hello.
And welcome to EpiPod. Sarah is a mom to 2 little boys with food allergies.
And Danielle has navigated life-threatening allergies her entire life.
Living with an invisible health condition is so isolating.
The fear and the anxiety.
Trying to cover it up so you don't affect anybody else.
Especially your kids. Sound familiar?
Join us on the couch and take a load off with people who just get it.
We're so glad you're here.
Hi, Sarah.
Hey, Danielle.
Welcome to EpiPod.
Yep, this is episode 9.
Is it episode 9?
I think it is.
I lost count at this point.
I know, but we're about to be at double digits. There's always so many things that we can talk about. I feel like both of us get DMs on our social media, and then also just talking with allergy moms. There's always something, there's always an issue.
Just when you think I'm not going to run into allergies, or this won't be this is a straight shot for the rest of the day, they poof up.
Exactly.
Yesterday I went to a bookstore. My friend and I were going to this cute little local bookstore, and it has a coffee bar and a wine bar. And we were like, ooh, let's meet up and get a little, beveragino, and then we can maybe buy a book or just sit down and whatever. We walk in. And immediately spidey senses go up because I'm like, what is that over there? There's stuff all over the floor by where you order the cafe bar. And she's like, oh, have you read this? Oh, have you read this? And we're immediately talking. And I don't know why, because I couldn't smell anything. My smell has never been the same since I had COVID last summer. So it wasn't a smell, but I think it was just my 30% psychicness. I just kept looking and looking. She's like, what's going on? And I was like, I just want to know what's on the floor over there. Are those nuts? And she was like, okay, let me go look. Comes back and she's like, I don't want you to freak out, but there's peanuts everywhere.
This was an inside bookstore and there's peanuts all over on the floor? I don't understand that.
It was giving Texas Roadhouse of Barnes & Noble.
Why?
I don't know. It's a local bookstore, and they have maybe an 1/8 of it is dedicated to this little cafe counter.
Yeah.
That's half beer and wine bar and half coffee shop.
But still, why? Okay. So they serve peanuts. Why are they all over the floor?
I don't know.
What sort of animal does that?
Little and crushed up. I don't know. I think something must have spilled and they just didn't clean it up. Or maybe somebody had their own snack, a customer, and spilled it without realizing or cleaning it. I don't know.
It totally could have been a kid, I guess.
Could have happened 1,000 different ways.
Yeah.
But I'm standing there and immediately every alarm bell is going on because I am in the smallest flip-flops you can imagine. They were the ones that the nail salon gives you.
Yeah.
I am basically standing on the floor, and then I start scanning around me, which we weren't. It's a small bookshop. It's not a huge space, but there were little things all just dotted where it had been drug around.
So weird.
And she was like, do you want to go? And I was like, yep, I want to go. I don't want to. And one of the bookstore tenders, I want to say bartender, but book tenders, was restocking books in the aisle behind us. She was like, so sorry, I overheard your conversation. I'm going to go get a broom and sweep it right up.
And you're like, thank you, but I'm still leaving.
I was like, sweep it up? Right. Now we really got to go.
Right.
And it's going to be poofing in the air. And these were little, it was giving almost ice cream sundae vibes of those little peanuts everywhere. Anyways, I got home, was feeling like I needed to wash everything, rip off everything.
You needed to go through a car wash and just fully get sprayed and
talking about it all over. Yeah, I was talking about it all over again. But I don't know. I'm working with my therapist on safety behaviors and being really mindful of what is an actual risk that you do need to take care of yourself in, and what is, I am going down a spiral and making it worse by paying so much attention to it. And I caught myself and was just you consume the amount of protein that is in a peanut every single morning. Say some of the particles got on your feet, which it probably did. That is not going to be a danger with where you're at in treatment, and just in general, even before treatment. you have gotten things on your skin before and you have never needed an EpiPen for that, like you're fine.
Yeah.
So by the time I got home, I had talked myself down, just gave myself a little foot wash, and was talking to a friend, and I was telling her, and she was like, I'm really proud of you. And I was like, really? Why? And because I had moved on already, we were talking about boys, and she was like, I don't know, because I mean, if I were with you and you stepped all over Peanuts, like, I don't know, I'd probably need to get you a glass of wine or something. Yeah. And you seem like really calm. I'm proud of you. And I was like, oh, yes, mindfulness.
That's right.
But
I'm proud of you too.
Hello? Why? Everywhere. I'm just trying to buy a book.
I know.
And support a local business, a small business.
True. It's everywhere. Our neighbor goes out of town and has a big koi fish in the backyard, or koi pond with koi fish in the backyard. And they always ask if my boys want to feed them because it's fun. Yes. And, they had a new fish food. And as you're saying, allergens are everywhere. Like most people would be like, it's fish food.
Right.
But like fish food can have allergens. It does.
Totally.
We've been in a situation with like feeding goats, and the goat food had peanuts in it.
Yeah, for sure.
So like, you just never know. And, thankfully this neighbor is amazing and like always takes pictures of the labels for us and makes it safe. So, we checked and it was all good, but that just reminded me of that. It's like, yeah, every interaction, every situation, every activity, like there always can be a risk involved, and you always have to be vigilant, and it gets exhausting.
It's exhausting. And for people, that's why it's like, oh, well, just don't eat it. I'm like, great. Could I buy a book though?
Yeah.
Could I buy a book? The answer is no.
Right. Yeah, I know. Oh, it's so frustrating.
Okay, well, your turn. How are you?
I mean, I feel like I'm a broken record, but we're always like deciding, is Graham sick? You know, it's like, you just never know.
Yeah.
I thought like summer would be here and we'd be feeling better, but
it's not in the mill of school and winter colds and that sort of thing.
But it's just, it feels like he's just more susceptible always. And like every time he gets something, it's like worse than what the normal person would have it, you know, like, oh, okay, so you get a cough, but like his cough always leads to like an asthma attack of some kind, or the breathing episodes he has at night, or maybe it just like gets to his ears quicker and becomes an ear infection, you know, stuff like that.
It feels like he is sick more often than he's not sick these days.
That's how I feel too. I mean, I need to track it better and actually see, but it does feel that way. I mean, we just stopped antibiotics like 4 days ago, and a 10-day round. So yeah, it just, I'm always feeling exhausted, but, one thing I was going to say, and this will kind of lead into what we're talking about today. Okay. So today we're going to be talking about siblings. And allergies. So, you know, whether two kids both have allergies in your family and they're different allergies like mine, or whether only one has an allergy and the other doesn't, or say, you're pregnant with your second, like your firstborn has allergies and your second does not, or I mean, you don't know because you're pregnant and you're like, what do I do? How do I introduce food? And then also I've talked to a lot of people who have it the opposite way. Like they had a firstborn who does not have allergies, and then their secondborn ends up having allergies. And there's this dynamic of like, well, now do we have to change our older child's life completely because we want to make things safe for this second child? But like, also, is that fair to the first child? You know? So like there's all these different dynamics, and I kind of want to dabble in all of them.
I feel like it has to be one of the most top of mind things for a food allergy family, especially a family who may or may not know if they're done having kids or not, or know if they want to have more kids, or even, I mean, in my position, I'm the most single girl in the world, but I'm like, I think about it, if I ever have a family one day, like, what if my kid has allergies or doesn't? How do I expose them to things that I'm allergic to? The dynamics are wild with families. Okay, before we move on, I want to read a little something that we got in our DMs.
Okay.
And I don't know, I feel like both of our updates were a little like frustrated. So let's bring up the mood before we dive into the actual content with something that made my day. Okay, this was a DM. We love when you guys send us DMs. I know,
so and the reviews are just beautiful, and like not only are they helpful for the podcast, which like thank you so much. Like
they really do make a difference of if more people are going to get to see it.
Yes, but also just like for us, like we do pour a lot of time and energy, and that's not to say like, ooh, you know, like pat us on the back, but like we do this, but it is work. It's fun and it's work. Yeah, but it's work. And so
it's good to know that somebody's listening.
Yes.
And that it's helping people.
Yes. To get that feedback, it's like makes it all the more fulfilling.
Yeah. Well, this person wrote in, and I'll read her DM, but I wanted to read it at the top of the show because if you are listening, this may be a good idea for you and your allergy community as well. Okay. Thank you guys so much for all of this great information. Pat on the back. I have a daughter doing OIT for peanut and for egg. Here in Pennsylvania, we have been able to find a great community of parents who are also going through the same program.
That's awesome.
That is awesome. 2 other moms and myself have been running an allergy group to help with support. Yay.
Yay.
We are now using your podcast as like a book club.
Stop it.
Yes. And having group members listen. Then we get together and we talk about the subject. So thank you so much. And please know that your information is really making such a difference. I have full body chills all over again.
Yeah.
Same.
That's amazing. And what a good idea. First of all, I mean, book clubs are so fun.
I love a book club.
Same.
I'm like an aggressive reader,
Yeah.
and I started a book club this year. So I think that's why this extra makes me feel all the kinds of sparkly.
Yeah. To be able to connect with other people about like a shared thing that you've watched or listened to, I think is not only fun, but like it makes you get more out of it.
Also takes the pressure off.
Yeah.
Because you're not, I don't know, even when it's just you and I getting together, like we always have really valuable conversations. It always ends up going back to allergies, as all roads lead back to food allergies. But I remember like in the first few times that we hung out, like, I don't know, it almost just feels like you're purging information where you're like, what do you do about kissing? What do you do about me? Oh my God. It's just like, it's almost like a snowball fight because you are so hungry for somebody else to know and understand you without having to tell them everything.
Yes.
And when you find people that get this such specific life that we all have to live, it's like, so I feel like offering a structure can also take a load off of people who feel quite loaded down.
Right. And also it reminded me when you were saying that, I'm like, this is kind of how the episodes go too. We're like, we're here to talk about this. And then for 20 minutes before we get there, we're going to talk about 14 other things that have to do with allergies. But again, because it's also like nuance, there's always something to deal with allergies. And like, we have so much that are going on in our lives.
You know what I have found us as a surprise is we're like, oh my gosh, we thought that was going to be a shorter episode. It was such a long episode. And then the episode goes out into the world and we get a bunch of emails and DMs being like, okay, so one more question about that.
Yes.
And I'm like, how could we? I mean, I guess we could have talked for 20 hours and there will still be more questions about it.
So true.
Or new ways of thinking about something. So
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah. Thank you for reading that. That made my day, maybe my week, maybe my month. And I want to, like, can we pop into the book club?
I want to go to Pennsylvania.
Yeah. Okay. Not only I have family out there. Almost all my extended family lives in Pennsylvania. So like, where in Pennsylvania and can I come? But also, even like virtually, how fun would that be? To be like, hey ladies,
I'm dead.
We should do it.
In my head, I'm like, what sort of wine should we have?
Yes. Oh, for sure. Well, that's a given.
Wait, it's giving like pandemic dates, which I know you didn't do. You were having babies in the pandemic, but you're like, okay, I'm going to Trader Joe's. I'm getting this wine. You go to your Trader Joe's, you get that wine. And then we'll have a Skype and we're both drinking the same wine.
That's so funny. I did not do that, but I love that. And yeah, what a good idea. And let us know if somebody else starts that sort of club, or book club, podcast club.
What I wrote back to her is if you guys have specific topic ideas or just new ways of thinking about something that you want us to give our 2 cents on, send those in.
Let us know.
Yeah. Okay. Food and siblings and
allergies, all the things,
all of the nuance.
Yeah, we'll have to come up with a good title for it.
Siblings and food.
Yes. Yeah. So, okay. What I was going to say, I think we sidetracked.
As we
Surprise. Is that, so I posted about, like last night, I think, as I was going to bed. And
you don't sleep?
Yeah, I know, seriously. But one of my friends in the neighborhood were doing swim lessons at her backyard pool, and she has a newborn. So her older son is doing swim lessons with my boys, and she has like a newborn who's 2 months old, 3 months old, something like that. And he is the sweetest little gushy baby, and I just want to like hug him and like kiss him, and like sometimes I get to hold him if he's not sleeping while like the boys are swimming, and it just, I mean, I love babies, and it brings back the babyhoodness of the, you know, of my boys. But I will say, as much as I'm like, oh, this does kind of give me some fever, you know, some baby fever, it like has hit me recently between like this baby and another baby that I've held recently that I'm like, I think that I might be done. And I have always dreamed, I have 2 siblings myself, an older sister and a younger brother. And I always dreamed that that would be my family dynamic too, that I would have 3 kids. Even after having like the first one, just like as a baby, I was like, yes, you know, this is hard, but like, I'm going to have my, you know, the family I dreamed of. And, then of course, allergies rocked our world. And I always knew, even though as much as of a struggle as it was with having Graham have his reaction and learning of all his food allergies, and like, it felt really, really dark and hard. I still knew like, I'm having a second kid. Like I have to have a second kid. Mark is an only child, and it was really important to him as well. To have a sibling. Yes.
And I mean, I'm not in this stage of life, but I could totally see having an only child.
Okay.
So that's interesting that he was like, I want more than,
yes.
Oh,
so I think one of the things he lived, not to diverge again, but like he lived kind of out in the country. So there were not like neighborhood kids that he was running and playing with. He only ever had 2 cousins. And again, they lived like 30 minutes away. And like, so for a lot of his life, like growing up, it was like him and his parents. And then his parents ended up getting divorced. And so then it was really just him and his mom for a while, or like then he'd flip to him and his dad. And like, I think he just was very envious of many of his friends who like had built-in best friends. And again, everybody's situation is so different. You didn't have that same experience, but he was very much like, I do not want to have an only child.
I come from a modern family where I have an older half sister who has played a lot of different roles in my life as our ages have changed. She was like the cool aunt. And then she became, now as I'm getting older, she's more and more like a sister, but we didn't grow up together.
Okay.
So like more just like a really close friend who you have like family permissions with, or can be like your full crazy self with. But her 2 kids were very close in age to me. And so it's just with my, I don't even know what to call her. She's technically my half niece.
Okay.
But it depends on the day. If we're like at the same party or whatever, like I will say like, oh, this is my sister.
Yeah.
And they're like, that's so interesting. She just told me she's your best friend. And then like later in the conversation, it's like, oh, my cousin.
Yeah.
And they're like,
my
we're
niece.
so confused. Yeah. Like these girls have had too many margaritas.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can imagine not having grown up with them and alongside them. I would like lock myself in the pantry and call my mom and be like, please come get me. They are making slime and they got it in my hair. Like, yeah, it would be really different growing up.
Right.
Without a lot of family that were near you.
Yes.
And being treated like siblings. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I always knew I wanted 2. But then after I had the first, but even like this little, you know, bit in my head already was like, but really, am I going to be able to have 3? Like, I know, even though this is really hard with an allergy kid as my first, like, I know I'm going to have 2, but like, yeah, am I going to like make it to 3? I don't know. Like even then I started to feel that way, but I still held out hope.
You were like the dream pregnant person is once what you said to me over wine. You were like, I was the pregnant lady that everybody hated. And I was like, what do you mean? How can you hate a pregnant lady?
Yeah.
And you were like, I look normal and I just had this bump and I was like active and like, duh, like it wasn't terrible for you. No. I have a lot of friends having babies right now. And some of them are like, I wanted a basketball team and now maybe I just want an only child. Like pregnancy was really hard on them.
Yes.
And like postpartum things where it's just like a lot. Yeah. So it's not that for you.
No, it's not. It's that like, to be completely like transparent and honest, like being an allergy mom is really hard. Like it is a lot of work and it is like exhausting in all of the ways. And you're scared a lot more than you want to be, you know? And it's not that I don't, to say like, I don't want to live like this. Like, of course I want to live my life and my life is wonderful and my kids are wonderful, but like, do I really feel like I can handle not only just another child, But also like, what if that child also has food allergies?
Yeah.
What if that child has something else that is even more or just a different type of challenge? Like, why? Like, can I really handle that?
So what I'm hearing is you have your plate and you thought 3 kids, maybe even more. Like you can, 3 kids are going to fit on this plate. And with allergy life, you're like, this plate is overspilling sometimes as it is. Like I'm just balancing this.
Yeah. That's exactly how it feels. Yeah. What a good description. Like, I just don't feel like I can carry anymore without it going topsy-turvy. And saying it out loud or like typing it on my Instagram story, I was like a little nervous because, you know, there's a lot of like feelings and opinions out there about like family size and kids and like selfishness and decisions. Like, you know, I even hear people are like, I only want 1 kid, or I don't want kids at all. People call them selfish, you know, and it's like, because they don't want to give up more of their like life or their money or their time. And it's like, that to me is total and complete bullshit. And why are we judging anyone? Sorry. Is it the way I pronounced bullshit?
No, it's just I never hear you cuss. Usually I'm the spicy one.
Oh, I don't know. I cuss a lot, but I guess on this, I'm like, I don't want to, if somebody's listening who's little, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I just think that is so insane for anybody to think that.
I think it's the opposite, actually. It's like you are, whether you're in your boat, whether you're on the other end and whatever your situation is, if you're like, my gut, my everything, my decision is this, that's actually being unselfish. Because what if you have, then you're not able to support
and give them like the mother that they need,
or that you want to be to a person.
For sure.
Oh my gosh, how interesting that somebody would have that reaction.
If you're probably just not on that end of the internet because you are not like looking at baby things.
Yeah. I hear that moms on the internet are the biggest mean girls.
Oh my gosh. Some of them are the best and some of them are the worst,
like,
you know,
the shade and like,
oh gosh. And everybody has an opinion about your parenting or like how you're doing things, or if your kid acts a certain way, is it a reflection on you or not? Like, it's just, there's so much of that, and it is really exhausting.
And that's not even with the allergy stuff. That's just in general.
No, that's just for every mom.
Being a mom sounds scary.
It is not. I mean, it is the best thing and the hardest thing.
Okay, it sounds like you need a lot of grit. I'll change it to that.
Yes.
Being a mom sounds like you need a lot of grit.
You do. And if you don't have it, it's going to feel harder. You know what I mean? And you build it over time. But yeah, it's a lot. And the internet feels really hard sometimes because you see all these like perfect families because people just share their highlights, and then yours is a mess, or something's going on, or somebody's always sick, or you have a medically complex child, and like all of a sudden you feel less than, you feel othered, you know, and it's really demoralizing sometimes to see and compare yourself to all these other people and then feel like you don't live up to that.
It's also so hard because yes, everybody says it's a highlight reel. If only you knew what was going on behind the scenes. And like, you do show what goes on behind the scenes, but a lot of people don't. A lot of people are just giving the Christmas card version of their life online. But even knowing that and even saying that out loud, it's still hard to see
everything.
A Hallmark movie, whether you realize it's a movie or not, and then turn around and you're like, holy cow, my world feels like it's a bit on fire.
Yeah, absolutely.
More than a bit.
Yeah. And so like, I was a little hesitant to like put that out there, but like, I very much on my page feel like, again, it's like, I try to tell the truth. I try to be real so that people, if they're feeling the same way, don't feel othered, you know,
like a documentary versus a scripted costume.
Totally.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, and that's why I feel like you're so relatable. And that's why I feel like people trust you.
But why I say that though is more because when I posted it, I am still, I mean, almost every mess. I mean, I have just dozens and dozens of people who've responded to me in some way, shape, or form, giving their like, same, I feel you. This is so honest. This is so real. Thanks for like saying this out loud. I've been feeling this. I've been struggling with this. Like, it is always those things that I am afraid to post that like resonate the most, because we're all feeling them deep, dark in these places that we're like weirdly feeling shame about or nervous about. And it's it's unfortunate because again, like that, those are the things we need to be talking about. Just nobody wants to be judged. And so they hold them in. But I'm just so glad that I can sometimes be that, or at least like share my experience so that these people, I mean, again, like so many people messaging me saying like, I've felt the same. Like I wanted 3 and now I'm only going to have 1. And again, it's because of allergies, and that feels like icky to say because again, like it's this weird thing where you're thinking to yourself like, but my child is perfect. I love him just the way he is. Like there is nothing that I would trade about him or
change about him.
But at the same time, like, of course you don't want your kid to struggle, right? So like if I could poof his allergies away, I would.
In a second.
But also like that's not possible. And we are living this every day and it is really hard. And like, I just think it is okay to say that like, it is so hard that I don't think I can handle more. And so I think that's just like one baby element of this topic. But I think the fact that like saying out loud, I may not want another child because having the chance that either they have allergies or even if they don't, just like my plate becoming too full, like that I will topple over. Like, I think that's okay to say.
And I think there's a lot of people listening right now saying, oh my God, me too.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I would never feel comfortable admitting that, maybe even to yourself at this point.
Yeah.
But wow, me too.
Yeah. And so,
thanks for saying that.
Yeah,
it's a lot.
It feels like a little bit of a weight off my shoulders even to say it out loud though, honestly. And to kind of come up with the decision like, okay, maybe I am ready to send Mark to the doctor to get a snip.
Mark, if you were listening, he's like, whoa.
No, honestly, Mark's like, okay, I'm tapping my phone right now for people listening. Yeah, like, okay, hello, doctor. Yes, I'm ready. I'll be there in 5 minutes. Thank you. Like, no, Mark is ready.
That's hilarious.
And it's funny because he's the one who was like, 4. I want 4. And then I'm like, no way, 3. And then now we're like, but 2 is good. But one thing I'll say again, we're talking about like siblings and allergies. So like after having Graham and having everything happen with him, you know, getting pregnant with the second one, I was thinking to myself, because as mothers, we blame ourselves, like, okay, what can I do this pregnancy
that will be different,
that will change things?
I mean, people always ask me, did your mom not eat peanut butter when she was... And my mom, to this day, loves peanut butter. I know you were the peanut butter queen.
Oh my gosh. I ate peanut butter on everything.
It's so frustrating.
I loved ice cream and yogurt and cheese sticks. I mean, I ate all of it. And then there are the same people who say you ate too much. Maybe you ate too much peanut butter.
And I'm like, if you don't get the hell out of my way, I'm going to punch you.
Yes, that's exactly how I feel. But still, I was like scouring the internet. Like, okay, like, well, maybe I should eat less, or maybe there's a certain amount. Maybe there's something.
Here's the thing is, no doctor, aside from allergy world and allergy practices being the wild, wild west, and what one doctor says with great certainty, the other one says the exact opposite with great certainty. And it's just like, who are you going to trust? Who's going to be your provider? Aside from that, not one of them can say food allergies are caused by this.
Nope.
It's not like all other diagnoses where you're like, oh, it was a gene mutation. Oh, we have traced it back to this vaccine. Oh, this is because of C-section babies didn't get this kind of thing, you know?
Right.
Like there are so many different theories.
Yes.
But there's no clear why is this happening and why are the numbers rising?
Right. There is research that shows a few things. Like there are things that are like, if you breastfeed your child, you're maybe less likely to have a kid develop allergies. There's even research that says that like if they don't get antibiotics within the first 6 months of life, they're less likely to develop allergies. There are things about even like states that you live in and like dependent on environmental factors. There are people who say things about global warming, like it's getting hot and like our bodies are dealing with too many like environmental factors, and then it goes haywire for food. And I mean,
like already just in those theories are the ones that like actually have had some sort of study or beginning of studies,
but they're not definitive.
No, they're not definitive. And that's already, we've talked about food. We've talked about parenting. We've talked about the environment,
pregnancy.
There's no clear reason why, which makes, I'm sure as a mom to be like, even harder to not blame yourself, or not blame yourself. Like, what could I do that would be different?
Right.
Were you nervous? I know you already talked about the only child thing and you guys both know you wanted more than one, but were you nervous to have a second?
Yeah, I was. I mean, I would be, because I didn't want them to have allergies.
Totally.
And you know, again, after scouring the internet, trying to like look at any research, I was like, okay, like I talked to my allergist. I'm like, I really don't think there's anything I can do. The only thing that I didn't get then that I wish I would have gotten, and I think that this is something that there's a lot more mounting research to support that I've seen, is that there's a quote some people use now that says like, allergies begin through the skin, allergies begin. And so a lot of theories, research are pointing to like when you have a broken skin barrier, so like eczema, which both my boys did at like basically infancy, eating food around them. There are certain foods that are obviously more likely for this to happen to, the top allergens. But like if some of those food proteins get into the skin barrier, broken skin barrier, and their body then recognizes it, like some T cell, B cell, again, not a doctor. We need to have an expert, right? But it basically sends like a red flag up, and it's like, this is weird. This is a foreign body. And then first time you eat the food, your body already is like, wait, that's that foreign thing that I didn't like. And I am now going to have a reaction to it. Like because I've decided, my cells have decided that is like a no. That's something we have to fight.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Because I never had any sort of skin thing ever.
Which again
as an infant.
It's not, that's the thing. It's like,
not definitive. It's just a theory.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But again, I think that is like a stronger theory. So one thing I would say, Graham has the longer list, the eggs, milk, peanut, tree nuts, and so obviously that stuff, he was so highly allergic, even on contact, that like everything jumped out of our house. Like we did not have those foods around anymore when Ethan came into the picture 2 years later. And, he started eating those foods, and we'll go into a minute how like we kind of did the introductions and things, because that is a whole other scary piece.
Yeah.
Because they need to eat them. All this research says if they don't eat them, they'll develop an allergy. So you're like, well, shoot, okay, I need to give them these foods, but these foods aren't in my house. So
the boys are touching the same things, putting the same things in their mouth. I can't even. My anxiety could never.
Yeah, it is. It was really challenging. And then they even say like, okay, then you give them peanuts, but then you have to keep it in their diet like 3 times a week. And you're like, but how? Like, I mean, how am I going to do this? But anyway, so because we couldn't have nuts in the house, Graham was eating tons of sun butter. We always had sun butter sandwiches and
which
things.
Freaks me out because it smells, and I don't know about taste, but it smells so similar to peanut butter.
It does, which is why I think like people like it, because it's tasty. But we were eating it all the time in Ethan's infancy, and sure as shit, what is he allergic to? He had eczema, and we were eating sun butter, but no other nuts. And now he has a sunflower seed allergy, and that is his only allergy. Yeah. Danielle has a big wide open mouth.
My gosh.
Have I not shared that with you before? Like, or that like whole like train of thinking?
I mean, you've shared that with me before. I knew about the sun butter, but I hadn't like linked them together that way.
Well, and I didn't even really initially, until again, I kept seeing this research about like through the skin, allergies begin.
And I'm like, damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Exactly.
Don't give it to them because your child is allergic, your other child's allergic. Do give it to them, because if you don't, they're going to get it. Don't have it around them because it may go through the skin. Because if you don't have it 3 times a week, it's like, you literally can't win.
You cannot. And you constantly feel like it's your fault. You constantly feel like you're going to make one mistake and the whole, world is going to explode.
If my mom is listening, I'm sorry. I know she wants to be a grandma. I think I need to stick with dogs. This sounds...
It's a lot.
Insane.
It's so much pressure.
Aside from all the other mom things that moms go through.
Yeah. And then
this is insane.
And on top of that, again, you feel like you're walking a tightrope. Like, how am I going to manage all of this, do all of this, make all these decisions, all these micro decisions that you have to make all of the time already for your allergy kid, and then you have to make for your new baby, and then you have to factor in, how do I not make the new baby have the allergies? It's just a mess.
I'm sorry. Also, working a full-time job, also keeping your marriage healthy, also the other kid.
Right.
What?
Also, like, how do you have friends and like do things, activities?
Forget
it's like,
friends.
Yeah.
Forget friends, forget hobbies.
I know.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. That's why sometimes I seriously like have to check in with my friends and be like, are we still friends? Like, do you still love me? Because I'm sorry that I have ghosted. Like, I just cannot. I feel like my brain is about to explode every 5 seconds.
I am going to steal your password to your phone and turn off your DMs or something. Like, you're giving too much to everybody.
I know, but like, it's like there's so many people who need, and
Totally.
I don't know. It's just, I don't know.
How? Okay. Well, anyways,
Okay,
we'll have this an offline conversation.
Yeah.
I need to shake you and also give you a hug. But,
yes.
Okay. So having Ethan, you were nervous, but you knew you were going to have him.
Yes, I knew I was going to have him. So we did all of the things that we thought we were supposed to do. You know, we made sure to give him the allergens early and often, which again, that is so hard too, because like every 5 years they tell you something different about when to give your kid the food. They used to tell you don't give it till they're 1.
Yes.
Then they said 6 months. Now they're saying maybe 4 months. I mean, it's just like, how is any one person supposed to keep up? And by the way, I am a privileged person, right?
How is somebody with other things going on? Yeah.
Yes. I mean, how is somebody of like lower income or with lower access to the internet or to healthy foods or to any kind of like medical research? I mean, how are we to expect they are supposed to get this information when I, as a like person who, again, I feel comfortable saying, like, I come from a fairly privileged background. Like, my parents had money to send me to school.
You're educated. You know where your next meal is coming from. You live in a safe, dry, air-conditioned
all
place.
All the things that every person deserves, but I am lucky enough to have them.
Yeah.
And still, it is hard for me to figure out what to do. I almost said the F word, which I say all the time, but I'm trying not to say it on here. But you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, it's just, it feels impossible.
I have a lot of my friends are having kids, and the first time that I met one of my good friend's babies, there's a group of 4 of us from college. I have the severe peanut tree nut. The number 2 friend her daughter has severe tree nut peanut, went through OIT. The 3rd friend, her toddler has a lot of allergies, is in tip. And so when the 4th had her baby, she did some sort of formula where she was like, I've seen what it looks like as an adult with an infant going through treatment, with a toddler going through a different kind of treatment. Like, I'm giving my infant this formula, essentially. You like mix it in, and it has it honestly looked like a diet program where it's like week 1. It looks like, Prolon, like that fasting program for adults, but it was for babies. And it was like, this week you're introducing this, and then you're adding in more, and then you're adding this. And the day that I met him, he had his peanut formula, and she's like, do you want to hold him? And I was like, no. What are the chances he's going to vomit on me?
Yeah.
I'm like, hi. Yeah. And like, I'm like Googling, like, how long is this in this kid's stomach? Like, if he had that stuff in the morning, like, I don't know. That's where I was thinking, but like, you're right. Every certain amount of years, there's something new. There's a new recommendation. Yes. And I pray that whatever that was, or just the luck of the draw, she doesn't have to deal with that. But like, it would be dizzying. Dizzying to be like, what do I do? And what's the recommendation now? And is the recommendation now going to be what they're saying not to do? And you're like, I just shot myself in the foot.
Yes. So, I mean, we're all just like trying to do the best we can, like finding the research, trying to follow what's new, but like also some people can't even do that. But either way, like, I did not know at that time about the whole skin thing or theory. And so he ended up having a sunflower seed allergy. But other than that, he doesn't have any of Graham's same allergies. And again, feels so random other than the sunflower thing, if that is how it happened. But how we introduce, so again, they say now early and often. We don't keep it in the house. So what I did was I contracted one of my friends in the neighborhood, basically. And I said, like, can we come over to your house? Like, as in me and Ethan, and can we like
eat peanut
butter at your house. I have a picture. I should like post it, if they can post it in the show notes or something, or maybe when this episode comes out, we'll do it online. Yeah. But like I have a picture of Ethan, and it's so funny. I have him in a like a swimsuit because it was like summer and we were outside, and he's in like a baby pool because Graham, I think, was going to come over possibly after, or maybe I can't remember what the situation was, but like I didn't even want it to be outside of in her yard because we go over there often to play and stuff. And so we like put him in this little like baby swimming pool and like gave him a little like teeny taste of peanut butter on a spoon. And of course I have
the meds ready and everything.
Oh, of course. I had like Epis just in case. Cause obviously I had Graham.
Oh my God.
And it was very scary. Some people do it in like the ER parking lot.
Oh my God. I would like book an appointment with the allergist and be like, I'm just going to do this here in your OIT room. I
will say before we gave food though, we did bring him to the allergist per their recommendation. Graham's like local allergist, and they tested him for Graham's allergens. They didn't test him for sunflower seeds because they did, how would anybody know? Yeah. And now there are a lot of allergists that I've seen online talking about like, you shouldn't even do that. Like that's not,
Why?
Because they're saying that it could come up positive and then you could avoid it. And then you could end up causing the allergy if you're avoiding it.
I'm sorry. I'm going to move to a place with no Wi-Fi and like go off the grid. This is maddening.
I know, it really is. So he tested negative on skin to all of Graham's allergens. So I think I felt, and also I did look at research that showed like there is no indication that like, I think it's slightly higher risk of your second having allergies if your first has allergies, but really like it's very marginal. Like it is not a high likelihood. It does not like run in the family.
Nobody in my family, not one person has a food allergy.
No, I mean, and again, I think there is like the tiniest, slightest increase for people who do have allergies in their firstborn, but like it's not, at least the research I've read is not indicative that like your secondborn's definitely going to have it, or even like 50% likely or anything like that. So I think knowing that research, knowing that he had tested negative to some of the top allergens, I was like not overly nervous, but still I was cautious.
Yeah, you had the meds, you had the baby pool. I feel like that's pretty cautious.
Yes, I was very cautious. And mainly for like Graham's sake.
Right.
But also, so we like went to a friend's house, we did the first exposure there. And then from then on, and with the other allergens, we did expose him. At the time, Graham was in a preschool, cause he was 2.5 and, maybe actually going on 3. Cause we didn't give Ethan food till about 6 months. So he was like going on 3 years old. And so he was in like a little pre-K program, and Ethan wasn't. He was at home with a nanny when I was working. And so we gave him the food when Graham was not there. Oftentimes I would give the nanny food and say like, bring it to the park and like not the playground. I made sure it'd be like wiped down, no play, because I felt that way.
Yes. You're taking care of whoever comes up next.
Exactly. But I was like, I also don't really want it in my house. So we would keep the food, like whether it be like a peanut butter cracker or yogurt in a tube or like something to where it was like less messy.
You could throw it away
and it wasn't going to like dribble all over him. And I made like her give it to him. So that's another tip. Like I didn't let him, like normally with food, you want kids to get messy and like, that's how they learn how to like
feed themselves, play with it, touch, sensory, all the things.
Allergies, no way. Like it was a very controlled situation. We would be like either outside, have the nanny or myself or my husband give it to him. And also when Graham was not there, and again, out of the house.
Were you worried about saliva though?
Yes.
Babies drool all over the place. So like Ethan grabs Graham's favorite dinosaur, sticks it in his mouth, and then Graham touches it or sticks it in his mouth. How does that work?
So we would always try to do it like pretty early because, time also helps. You don't generally like brush kids' teeth because they don't really even have teeth.
Right.
But we did get like just a like wet toothbrush and like would, like go over or like make him kind of like swish with a safe liquid of some kind or like I'd breastfeed him, eat something else, like something to try to like kind of almost wash away the allergens. And then again, tried to do it like not right before Graham came home. And then I was also mindful of like, if there was a certain toy that he was mouthy with a lot, of course we'd wash his hands, we'd change his clothes. But then if there was a toy that he was really like mouthy with often, I would like wash that before Graham came home.
So much, Sarah.
So much work. Yeah.
So much just so that he could eat things that he was okay eating so he didn't become not okay eating them.
Right. And so that my older child doesn't have a reaction. And these are the little things that like
nobody ever would think about.
Because motherhood is so hard already. With nothing else added on top of it, it is so hard. And then to have to do all these like micro things and make all these decisions and research all the time what's best and what's not. And it just feels so overwhelming all of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, people don't realize.
They
like,
don't.
I mean, the bookstore from the end of the episode, the saliva, like a random dog running up to me at the park. I'm like, don't freaking lick me. Don't touch me. Like, I hate that because
you've had a peanut butter snack.
Yes.
Right.
Or like little kids who want to come up and touch the dog. I'm like, no, he bites. He doesn't bite.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know what's on your hands.
Vicious dog.
Vicious dog.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, he's just like,
he's like curtsying.
Yeah, but like, you don't think about the nuance of like saliva.
No.
Or the nuance of change your clothes. Or the nuance of in 2 hours or 6 days from now, Graham's going to maybe be in the same patch of grass where Ethan wiped his peanut butter hands from the exposure.
Yeah.
What the heck?
I remember I did a reel where I was packing yogurt for both of them at one point when Ethan started going to school. I would pack both their lunches, of course. And like for Graham, for him to have his safe yogurt, I would like have to get the safe yogurt, put it in a, like reusable pouchy thing and like label it and, you know, clean off everything. And like, it was a whole process. Right. And then for Ethan, again, I would send him, they went to like different schools or at least we're in a different class, no matter what time it was in terms of their schooling. And, I would just buy like the tube yogurt or like the squeezy yogurt. Yeah. And like, I showed all the like process of doing it for Graham and then to get him like a squeezy yogurt like everyone has. And then for Ethan, it was just like from the package into the lunchbox. And it was like,
not to mention the cost.
Right. Oh my gosh. 3-4 times.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, yeah, there's so many elements to allergies, but,
I can't even, I am shocked.
Yeah. So then of course with Ethan's allergy, we gave him, it was like time to give him all the foods, you know, we're like giving him food slowly. And that was another recommendation that I got from like an allergist was when you're giving these foods again, early, give them often, especially the allergens. They just say you don't have to give them one at a time anymore, but like some people would say, I've heard different allergists say different things, but like some allergists would say like, if you're nervous or if your older child does have allergies or if they are an eczema child, like the kid that you're, you know, introing food with, like you might want to do one food for a week, you know, every day for a week and let the body really tell you like yes or no, you know, to that food, before you move on to the next. So that way you're not like giving eggs one day and then for dinner you're giving milk and like then something happens the next day and you're like, but was it the egg or the milk? You know, like you don't know. So some people will still say give one allergen at a time and do it for several days, if not a week. We did that. We didn't just like throw all the allergens at him. We did
and then
one
if there
every
is a
couple
reaction,
days.
you know which one it was.
Yeah.
I have a question. What about, like, were you ever worried about the second exposure? Because that's something else where it's like the first may be super mild and then the second is where the body has learned like, oh, that was the red flag. Like now I'm going to attack. And then that's when you have this reaction issue. Yeah. So like, if I'm just imagining myself, if I were in your shoes, like, okay, you've gotten through the baby pool, you've done the first exposure, but then were you scared about all the future ones?
I was. And that's why we kind of continued to do it that way. We didn't go back to the baby pool in the backyard of my friend's house, but like, again, we did it like when Graham wasn't around, we did it outside, either at the park or at home in the backyard, kind of away from like where they play. But yeah, I mean, I was still equally as cautious and kind of nervous, within, you know, at least for a week or so of doing each of the allergens. And then, when we did sun butter, I wasn't nervous at all. Yeah. You know, I was like, but this is the safe one.
And sun butter is what all of the schools, no nut programs were no nuts. But so
I know.
What the heck?
I know. So so then we gave it to him and he had like immediately. And that's the thing with both my boys, neither of them had anaphylactic reactions the first time, but each of them did react the first time to their allergen. So some people don't at all. They'll eat the food 3 or 4 times and then the 5th time they have a full-blown reaction. And literally like nothing happens for the first times. I mean, again, people can go their whole lives and then develop a food allergy, right? Yeah.
I've made friends online who are like, I was 30 years old and now I'm allergic to 7 things.
Yeah.
And anaphylactically so. And I'm like, what?
I know. So you just really don't know. But for my boys, I don't know why, the rhyme or reason, but like, yeah, from the get, they showed a response to the food. And again, at this point, he had eaten like all the allergens and been fine, the top allergens. And so then when he ate the sun butter, and again, just like a lick of the sun butter on his finger or on my finger, he had like redness and blotchiness all over. And like a little like eye droopy.
Imagine the pit.
It was a gut punch, man.
Yeah.
It was really brutal because I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, again, what did I do? What did I do wrong? Like, I thought I did everything right.
And the answer is you did nothing wrong.
But it still, honestly, it still doesn't feel that way.
I can understand that too.
Yeah.
But you did everything that you could have. You spent hours and hours researching. Like, this is completely out of everyone's control.
It really does feel like there's no winning. But yeah, so we took him to the allergist, and at our allergist, they didn't even have they usually have like all the tests ready to go for all the top allergens, and they have to like make a solution of the sunflower seeds.
I was told at the terrible allergist in Los Angeles, you know, we don't even have a test for sunflower. Avoid it because you're probably allergic. Without even a test.
Worst advice. Yeah. At least here they like mixed up like ground sunflower seeds with like some water and dipped it and did the test.
Yep,
and
that's what they did at Aspire. And then we did the food challenge as well. I think we did a blood test. I don't know. We did all of the things for all of them.
Yeah.
But sunflower butter.
I know.
It's such a trip. I have it in my pantry. I haven't had it since that day, which I know is not what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
But I only have so much bravery.
I know. That's right. You can only do so much, like mental capacity. Yeah. Let's see. What else? I'm trying to think through some of the other questions that I get on this topic.
Yeah. I have a question. What about what are your tips for people who are I guess the second kid has allergies and the first was totally hunky-dory normal, had nothing. They didn't even know what being a food allergy mom was. Yeah. And now the upending of...
Yeah. So obviously I don't have that lived experience,
right?
But I will say, yes, it happens because I have people telling me that a lot online. So I think it really just depends, what the allergy is, how severe, all the nuance and factors. But I would say for me, I think if that had happened for me, I still would have done it almost similarly to how I do it now. And in the beginning days too, where I don't think I could strip the first child of those foods. Say their favorite food was peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and then all of a sudden the second's allergic to peanuts. It's is that fair? Fair in quotation marks, right? Of course, if it's going to harm the second child's life, you can go without peanut butter. It's not that big of a deal.
Right.
The kid can learn to like something else.
Right.
However, that kid did not it wasn't in his control that his sibling was born, first of all, at all. And that the sibling then has an allergy to something that, you're not allergic to and you love. At the same time, so I think it could go many ways. I think if it's a very, very beloved food, there are ways to keep it in their diet, but maybe not at home, or even at home if you figure out the rules that work and maybe your second kid is not skin reactive on contact. If that's the case, it can maybe work at home. If you're not comfortable with that, I think you can still remove it from the home and find ways to maybe get the Uncrustables that are packaged and you can keep them in the freezer or in a lockbox, even whatever makes you comfortable, and then send it to school with them, or send it on okay, dad's taking, the older kid to the movies, the whatever it is. And
there's a system in place.
Yeah. Bring that food with you. So you don't have to deprive, again, in quotation marks, the child of their favorite food. But also I think the other thing that sometimes is missing from these conversations is if you do take it away from the older child, it may not seem fair, but like also you're teaching that child how to care for others, how to put others above yourself, your own needs, like how to have empathy for other people's situation. Like that is a extremely valuable and hard lesson to learn. And you're learning it so young that like, I have to give up something to help protect someone that I love.
People who come from families where somebody has a special need, especially like this is a totally different can of worms, not related at all. But the most special people that I have met where I'm like, you're so different than anybody else in the class, in the school and whatever. And then I find out they have a handicap sibling at home who is nonverbal or something like that, where they have spent their whole lives with empathy, with caring for somebody with a whole other all consuming whatever. And food allergies, I'm not saying they're the same thing at all, but the sibling of somebody with food allergies is going to kind of like the dating conversation.
Yeah.
They're going to care for people. It doesn't even need to be food allergies, but it's almost a gift. Like they are going to have this empathy muscle that is unlike any other.
And just the understanding that, again, like the world doesn't revolve around you. Like other people have challenges that they're facing that like we can all do a little bit, give a little bit to like help them lead a better life.
Like when they grow up and are off in college, it doesn't need to be like, oh, they have a friend with food allergies and they know how to care for that person or watch out for them or help take the load off, whatever. But they do know how to check in with everything else going on around them.
Right.
And realize, oh, you're not good. Or like something's going on over there. How can I help?
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about it? You don't? Is there anything? I'm just going to be here with you. Like they truly are going to be such special people. Something else that I think could be helpful for this conversation, and we talked about it a little bit before in an earlier episode, but the choice to have the allergen in the home or not, or maybe this was a conversation we were having on our EpiPod Instagram stories.
Maybe so.
But having the choice to have the anaphylactic allergen in the home or not for the people who are not allergic to it.
Yeah.
As with everything, it's nuance. But I really feel like when it's done with a lot of respect, when it's done with systems in place, when the kids are old enough or it's a high enough shelf or it's a lockbox or whatever it is to make sure there isn't a mess up that would have grave repercussions. I am so thankful that I grew up in a home where going to college wasn't a big deal.
Yeah.
Going to summer camp wasn't a big deal. I knew how to be around my allergen and know what was safe and wasn't safe.
Yeah.
Know when I needed to talk to an adult and didn't. Knew when I needed to wash my hands and didn't. Like I am just so thankful that I wasn't just thrust into the world of like, oh my God, and now how do I advocate for myself? Or now how do I know what the limits or like what's just a hive because it got on my skin and whatever.
Yeah.
I still lean on a time before I had a really big accident that gave me this amount of trauma around it. Like I still like the bookstore example.
Yeah.
I lean on my old self. Oh, do you remember when you went to that bar and you walked through it and you walked out and you washed off your feet and you were fine? This is that. You will be fine.
Yeah.
Like I lean on my old self who hadn't been through so much and was always okay and always advocated for herself, even at a really young age. And so I think it's when every family is different, every allergen is different, but when you allow for the opportunity
to learn.
Yes, both children is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
One is going to have an insane empathy muscle and the other one is going to have the ability eventually to be around other people who have their allergen, but are also so respectful and keeping them safe.
Yeah. And I think there's a way to have an in-between too. Like if you're just someone who's like, but I can't for one reason or another have it in the house, I think you can still teach your kid how to be around the allergen in like public spaces.
Oh my gosh.
So for me, for example, like I totally see what you're saying. Like, and sometimes I've thought to myself, well, shoot, should I have had the allergens then and like taught him more? But then I'm like, okay.
But your babies are so little.
Well,
I'm talking about like
yeah.
middle middle school,
but also,
high school.
But also, like, for me, it was like the whole world is a minefield, right? For him.
Totally.
So like the one place I would like to have where he doesn't even have to think about it, I would love for his safe place to be our home.
That's how I feel now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think there's still plenty of opportunity to teach your kids how to be in the world, how to manage allergens, how to speak up, how to advocate, how to do all of the things without living in a home that has your allergens there. That said, I'm not at all judging people who have allergens in the home. Again, especially when the older one grew up the first 3 years of their life having whatever they wanted, and now their whole world is rocked. Like, I have empathy for that. I totally get how that would be a different situation. And that's the thing. Everybody has a different situation. So let's stop the judging and let's all just try to like figure it out and talk to people without worrying about, you know, how somebody's going to respond or what they're going to do or say. I think there are ways to manage it no matter how your particular situation is.
It's so much.
That was a lot. That was a lot. And I feel like there's probably so much more, especially on like the pregnancy situation. That is another topic. I'm going to leave here and I'm going to like try to look up and talk to people about who can come on and talk to us like expert wise about the whole like either breastfeeding and just like pregnancy intros of food, like somebody in that like dietitian space, breastfeeding space. Actually, there's a friend of mine that I've become friends with named Megan. I forget her handle name right this second, but I'll put it in the show notes. But I think she would be great on too, because that is such a topic that like I feel like moms could talk for 3 hours on that, of just like how confusing it all is. And yeah, so that is a whole separate episode, I think, but there's just always so many things to talk about.
So many different little rabbit holes.
Yeah. Yeah. But what am I missing? Is there anything else?
I don't think you're missing anything, but I do think that you're such a good example to people of like, holy cow, you can have a kid with multiple very severe allergens, another kid with one that may or may not have been caused because of the sun butter situation, and still make it work. Like, you are in the trenches right now, but it is doable. I don't know, as a single person who, if I met the right person, I would love to have kids. I look at this and I'm just like, seems maybe a little too scary or hard. Like, I don't know if I'm made of what you're made of, to be frank, but at the same time, it's just so helpful. It's sort of like being at summer camp and you're afraid to go off the high dive. And then you see somebody in your same age group in your same cabin do it. And then you're like, that's scary, and that was scary for them. And if I go up there right now, it will be scary for me. But if they can do it, her head is above the water.
Yeah.
She's treading hard, but her head is above the water.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I think it's just so helpful to see somebody doing what seems like so much.
Yeah. And you're right. It can be done.
Yeah.
It's not going to be easy.
No,
but it can be done. You will figure out a way to manage and handle it, of course, with the advice of your allergist and, you know, any kind of friends that you really trust and rely on. And you'll just figure it out yourself.
Yeah.
Like you say, you're not sure you're made from the same stuff. Like I really think we all, first of all, I know you and I know that you are. Thanks. But secondly, just speaking to everyone, like, you can be anything. You can do anything, you know. Yeah. It's just you might have to get calloused. Do you know what I mean? Like, you might have to like fall down and hurt yourself
so
a lot.
Calloused.
Yeah. And then it builds up. And again, you hate that anybody has to go through hard things to get stronger, but it certainly is the case. You know, like you over time, you're learning, you're figuring it out.
Yeah. Everything is figure outable.
Yes.
Everything is figure outable. And like, just in you telling the stories of how it's gone, like first it wasn't in the house, then it was in the baby pool, then it was at the playground, now it's in their lunch boxes. Like, you're rolling with the punches. For
sure. And I mean, again, now we have food in the house that we're using for treatment, that we're, you know, keeping on high shelves and
you're
things.
Eating eggs for breakfast.
I know. It's wild. And like, even there's sun butter in the house, you know, because it's on a higher shelf and we use separate knives, you know, and it's a whole process, right, to like keep them separate. but we want to keep some butter in Graham's diet so that he doesn't then develop an allergy. So like, there's all
exhausting.
It is. It's the systems though. It can be done, now that Ethan's older, he understands more. He asked me, I swear, Ethan asked me even more than Graham, Mommy, did you check the label? Did you check? Like he asks every teacher, everybody, like, did you check the label? He's 3. Yeah.
He asks you, did you check the label?
Oh yeah. Even on foods that we like, it's the same like Pop-Tart carton and you're just pulling the second one out. Like he's like, did you check the label, Mommy? So he's
sweet boy.
Yeah.
See, and that is, say he didn't have the sunflower allergy. Like, do you know if he's asking for himself or for Graham?
I think he's asking for himself. He knows he has the allergy. He's very like well-spoken about it. But I will say he also knows Graham's allergies.
Yeah.
So like there's again like a video that I posted around Halloween time this past year where we were in the aisle and most Halloween candy is safe for Ethan. Like it's not going to have sunflower. But most of it is not safe for Graham, especially the chocolate things. And it like just so cute. So it went sort of viral, but like he's asking like, Mommy, check this, and he's bringing me like bags of candy. I'm like, oh no, baby, that's not safe, for Graham. And he's like, okay, this one's not safe for Graham. And he puts it back, it's like siblings are the sweetest. They look after each other. I mean, my kids fight like dogs. They are brothers 2 years apart. Like they are always like trying to annoy each other, hurt each other, something.
That's hilarious.
But it is, truly like Fight Club in my house sometimes. But like they do have so much like compassion and understanding, and they look out for each other. And I'm really, really thankful for that. And I do think a big piece of that at such an early young age has to do with allergies.
Wow.
So anyway.
Oh, sweet angel.
There's so much more to talk about, but I feel like this would be a good place to jump into questions.
Yes, let's jump into questions.
And
it's brought to you by Inchbug.
That's right. I was like, are you say it or am I? Inchbug's the best. They're a label company. They also make those little like bands that fit around your water bottle. And so it's not really even a sticker. They're like thick rubber bands that have like names, and you can put allergy information, I think, on those too.
And they're waterproof. Like they have been through the ringer at your house.
It's right. And yeah, seriously, the ringer always at my house when it comes to like things getting dirty and whatnot, and they do not budge. And again, they have like specific allergy labels that you can list. There's like little pictures and names and alerts, and you can customize them. So they're great.
Well, that makes sense because the founder is an allergy mom herself. So she totally gets it.
Yeah. She is a recent allergy mom too. Like she is I think 18 months, and it took a while for them to figure it out, but he had a pretty bad reaction, and we've become friends and chatted about all things allergies before, but she is really kind of leaned into the allergy community and wants her business to be like really supportive of the community because now she is in it herself.
I love that so much.
Yeah.
But it gives me the chills.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you, Inchbug, for sponsoring this portion of the podcast.
It is linked in our show notes.
Yep.
And also they gave us a little code for you guys, EpiPod25, if you want to make an order, but it's show notes, more information, all of the
Especially
goodies.
good for like camps and school things coming up. Like if your kid's going to kinder or something for the first time, these would be perfect.
Obsessed.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get to the questions.
Let's do it.
Okay, let's tackle 3 more straightforward, quick ones. These are less anecdotal.
Yep.
Okay, the first one is an anecdote. No. Okay, how would you feel about your child's school, which is a 1st through 7th school, getting rid of their school nurse?
Alarm bells immediately.
Yeah.
I don't know that I would feel comfortable at all, to be completely honest. I mean, my first question would be like, is that legal? Like, are you allowed to do that?
Yeah.
I mean, there are a lot of kids with a lot of medical issues that go to school.
Right.
Like, how is there not going to be, how's there not going to be a nurse? Again, maybe that's a privileged way of thinking. Maybe there's a lot of schools that don't have school nurses, or maybe the school nurse is rotating between campuses. I would say I would need more information. I would need to know like, okay, is there anyone who's maybe not a nurse, but like trained medically? Are there enough people at least who have practiced with the epinephrine auto injector and know how to use it? Are there, like hospitals nearby? Do I live close by? Like, I think there's a lot of questions I would have to ask and know and feel good about before I would say yes.
So if Graham's school, yes, everything is case by case, but if Graham's school was like, hey, Sarah and Mark, budget cuts or whatever reason, there will no longer be a school nurse. would you feel inclined to move him to a campus that did have a school nurse?
Honestly, yes. I'm a little surprised to hear myself say that, because I feel like I'm normally a person who'd be like, I understand. We could do this. We could figure it out. And maybe if that was actually my situation and I had more time to think about it, maybe there would be a way that would work. And also, like, I'm interested, like, if this is your situation, like, how do you make it work? I'm curious. But yeah, I would be my initial response to hearing this question for the first time would be, nope, not cool with that.
Yeah.
And we would have to figure out a different place, or I'd really go hard at advocating and going to the school and saying, like, what can we do to stop this situation? Like, what can we do to get a nurse? What can we do to keep the nurse from leaving? You know, something like that.
I did not have a school nurse.
Okay.
Until I was in high school. I went to a private Christian preschool.
Yeah.
No nurse. And then I went to a 1st through 8th grade school, no nurse.
Yeah.
And I remember I talked about it prior, but the peanut oil in my eye situation. Yeah. That was my only school reaction. And I remember the vice principal, like, coming in and out of her office. I was just sitting in the teacher's lounge being like, are you still okay?
Yeah.
I'll try your mom again. But, like, there was never any nurse or medical professional to see me and be like, oh, this is an allergic reaction.
Yeah.
I don't think that that's advisable, but
right. Again, maybe this is very commonplace and I'm just like I haven't had to deal with it.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is this sounds like a 90s baby situation versus like a current.
Maybe.
I don't know
either. But that would definitely, like, this person having, like, alarm bells go off, like, same.
Well, they're so little.
Yeah.
Little kids. Even say they're the 7th grader.
Yeah. And I mean, epinephrine is designed, like, the auto injectors are designed so that a lay person can do the injection and can call 911 and you can get to emergency services. I mean, it's intended specifically to be used by someone who is not a doctor. That is why they're made, but
maybe not a 5-year-old.
Right. And, like, maybe not someone, I don't know, who's not, it just makes me feel better when somebody who has some sort of medical training or background or experience could be there for my kid. I don't know.
Okay, let's put up a poll on our Instagram.
Good idea.
When the day that this goes live, I'll put it in my calendar and see how many food allergy families out there have a nurse and in their school, and if there are ones that don't have a nurse. And then we can sort of see how common is this, because it seems pretty wild to me.
Agreed.
I remember when I moved to high school, they were like, oh, like, if you get a period cramp, you can go to the nurse and take the science period off because we are tested it. And I was like, what? You guys can go to a nurse and just lay down if you're not feeling good?
Yeah. I always had a nurse at my school.
We did not have that. Oh, man. Okay. Next one is, I am having so much trouble finding a protein bar that does not have my son's allergies in it. Her son's allergies are dairy and peanut. Even most that claim to be nut-free and dairy-free are made in a facility that does peanuts or milk. Do you have any suggestions?
This is really hard. It's, like, super tricky. I would say there are some out there that are not, don't have it as an ingredient, either of those, but made in a facility, that's hard. Like,
really hard.
Lara bars, like, they have ones that are safe. Aloha, I think, is a brand. They have ones that are safe, but they are made in a facility. Like, they have a peanut butter flavor, right? But I will say there's one, Alio. It's kind of new. I think it's very small, and they are like a top 9 free protein bar. Now, it's not all that hard, and I'll put some in the show notes to find a bar that is top 9 free, but to find one that is protein is the hard part.
Yeah.
So, like, you can find the made good bars, the other things that are free of those allergens even in the facility, but to find them with, like, a full like, you're able to eat it and it has 20 grams of protein, things like that, that's trickier.
You know what else is Owen? It's not a protein bar, but if you're looking for on the go and protein, the Owen bars.
The best.
I mean, not bars, the Owen protein.
Yes. We have it in our house. It's a staple.
I know it because it's in your house.
Yes.
And then I remember when the Mahomes family did a campaign, I was like, oh, that's Sarah's protein.
Yeah. Yes. So that, I would say, I'll link a few, but off the top of my head, that's what I got.
We should do an episode in the future. We go through our favorite brands.
Yes.
Like, just a quick fire.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Look forward to that. Last one. Are antihistamines for a must during your treatment programs? My daughter is so emotional and mean on meds. Is that a thing? I didn't know that kids got mean on meds.
It is. There are some antihistamines that are known to cause like behavioral changes in children.
Really?
Yeah. And I don't know the science behind it, but there are certain ones that are more likely to do that than others.
Okay.
I forget the one that's like most likely. Maybe it's Zyrtec or like, I can't remember, but we had Graham on Zyrtec for a while, and I never necessarily noticed like a huge mood change, but sometimes he did feel like really emotional, and I was reading other people having these experiences, and I was like, well, maybe we'll change it up. Plus they say to change antihistamine every once in a while anyway, to like, if your body starts to kind of get used to it. Anyway, so we switched to Allegra, and I swear, I think I did notice his.
Wow.
Now again, like, could it have been coincidence because we gave it to him right when like some big mental shift was happening in his little growing brain?
Was more mature all of a sudden.
Sure. Like that definitely could have been the case. Again, not a doctor, don't have that information, but anecdotally, okay. I was like, oh gosh, my brain. I do feel like I noticed a slight difference when we switched antihistamine. So I think that's normal for her. If she's noticing that, I think there is like actual research that shows that happens.
Something to watch out for.
So I would say yes, in tolerance induction program at the Food Allergy Institute, you do have to be on a daily antihistamine.
Wild.
Yeah, totally different.
Totally different.
Yeah, because in a lot of programs, you're really not supposed to. But in this program, I think you're doing so much so often that they want to like kind of give the immune system like a layer of pause, like a little bit of like a, let's lower the bucket, like the allergy bucket, so that we can work on these other things. And then eventually they wean you off after the end, like after you graduate. But yes, you do have to be on it for TIP. And I would say if you're having behavioral issues, talk to your allergist, of course. You know, that's always the thing to say. You what? Talk to the allergist.
Talk to the allergist.
Yeah. Sorry, I mumbled. But also give a different one a shot. Like, it's fine. Just switch it up and see if her behavior is better or worse or whatever, for like a couple of weeks and see how what it does to her. And then maybe you'll find one that works and you'll be able to pursue treatment if that requires it.
OIT, at least my program, all of them are so different. My program, you don't take an antihistamine.
Right.
And you do if you're having a mild reaction. I use Zyrtec, and I switched from Benadryl because Benadryl would make me so sleepy.
Right.
And it was always a concern, like, are you sleepy or is this a reaction? I mean, that never happened to me. I switched Zyrtec before I started the program,
right.
But I know that Benadryl and the drowsiness of it is what can be a big concern for people. Or I remember having, like, something would spook me at school. This was like in the days when I would do may contain stuff, and I would get itchy, or like something would trigger me, and I'd be like, oh, I'll just pop a Benadryl just to be safe.
Yeah.
And then it was torturous to finish the day of school or finish the day of work. Post college, I would be like, I would text my mom and be like, my mouth is really itchy. I'm getting really anxious. What should I do? Like, I just want to let you know what's going on. Can you talk just to like help me, like talk me through the anxiety? And she's like, sure. Why don't you just take a Benadryl just to be safe? Just half of it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, because then the rest of my day is going to be miserable.
Yeah.
And now I don't have to think about that.
Yeah. A lot of people say Benadryl is like out now. Like,
It's
don't
totally
use it at
out.
all. Yeah.
Yeah. Because the rebound is.
Yeah.
Okay,
we did it.
We did it. Thanks so much for being here. Thank you, Inchbug, for supporting us.
Yes, and we'll see you next week.
We'll see you next Tuesday.